The time has come for the convergence of the moon, proclaimed Su, striding confidently towards the massive bunny with an air of aristocracy. His every movement was dapper and suave, exuding an aura of refined elegance. As Su approached, the giant bunny turned its head to face the almighty Lunar King, its attention now fully fixed on him. Let's rewind the clock by 10 minutes and delve into how Su found himself in this sticky situation. It was a night like no other, the full moon was casting an eerie glow on the surroundings and Su was feeling particularly daring. As soon as Su laid his eyes on the bunny, his heart sank. The furry creature was colossal in size and had an aura of sheer power surrounding it. To make matters worse, Su witnessed the bunny take down a 4-star mentor with ease. Su's flickering butterfly and moon reflection suddenly seemed like child's play against the giant bunny's might. In a moment of desperation, Su contemplated calling his trusty deer for backup. But just as he was about to make the call, he noticed something peculiar. The giant bunny had positioned itself between two helpless girls and didn't seem to have any intention of causing them harm. As Su scratched his head in confusion, he realized that there was only one logical explanation for the bunny's behavior. The sassy man gasped for air, his eyes bulging out of their sockets as he desperately clung to life. He had been eager to witness the true power of the Lunar King, but instead, he found himself being lifted by Bai's tiger and flung hundreds of meters away. All that remained was a pile of rubble, with Su and the giant bunny facing off against each other. Su could sense that the bunny wasn't really enraged, but rather acting on pure instinct. With a smile on his face, he outstretched his hand and said, "You must have been trying to find me, huh?" In the distance, Bai and Sandra watched on in a position where even a bakery owner would blush, wondering what in the world the Lunar King was up to. Suddenly, the giant bunny slammed its ears onto Su, sending the two girls into a state of shock. As the attack drew closer and closer to Su, time seemed to slow down to a crawl. The only thing that could be heard was the sound of a single droplet of water hitting a lake. But just as it seemed like Su's fate was sealed, something miraculous happened. Su was suddenly surrounded by his newly contracted beast, Moon Reflection, who hugged him from behind and absorbed the entire strike. The bunny's attack was completely neutralized, leaving Su and his beast unscathed. The sassy man watched in horror as the creature revealed its true form, a being of ancient, mysterious power. According to the intel circulating in the Black Moon clan, it was no doubt the emperor-ranked creature, feared by all who knew of it. Meanwhile, Su slowly opened his eyes, his body aching from the force of the attack. But he knew he had made the right call. The giant bunny was indeed the low-ranked moonlight bunny he had seen before, but with a lunar deficiency that had forced it to rank up to survive. Su gently rubbed the bunny's furry ear, feeling a strange kinship with the creature. He knew that creatures with lunar deficiency could only absorb energy from the moonlight during the full moon, and the bunny's desire for power had forced it to evolve beyond its limits. As he looked into the bunny's eyes, he saw a glimmer of recognition, as if the creature knew him somehow. Suddenly, as if out of nowhere, 3 mysterious figures landed behind the group. The sassy man's heart skipped a beat as he realized the gravity of the situation. "It's too late," he whispered with a sense of dread. "The Lunar King is alarmed, and everyone here is going to die." Even the 3 women accompanying them couldn't hide their shock at the news. The Lunar King was one of the most feared and powerful beings in the land, and no one dared to cross him. But Su, ever the quick thinker, saw the reinforcements and knew he couldn't waste any more time. He approached the giant bunny with a sense of gentleness, patting onto the bunny's ears, and asked if the bunny is here to look for him. Slowly, the giant bunny bowed down low to show its respect. It was a sight to behold, with the bunny's face touching the ground due to its sheer size. Su made a pact to meet it in the very spot where they had first encountered each other. And with a joyful cry, the giant bunny bounced off into the distance, leaving everyone else in shock. The sassy man's jaw dropped as he watched the Lunar King let the giant bunny go unscathed, despite the fact that it had attacked him. Su sneered at the man, his eyes filled with mischief. "Do you even call that an attack?" he quipped, making the sassy man fall silent. Suddenly, the shape of the crescent moon in the Lunar King's pupil began to shift and transform, until it was replaced by a dazzling, unblemished full moon. It was as if the very heavens themselves were bearing witness to the shifting of fate and the rise of a new order. The sassy man felt a shiver run down his spine as he realized that something momentous is about to happen. Su's eyes seemed to possess an almost otherworldly power, drawing the sassy man into their depths until he was frozen in place, unresponsive to the 3 women around him. Memories began to flood his mind, swirling around him like a raging storm. He saw the giant bunny, and how it had utterly obliterated his contracted creature with ease. He saw the mysterious beast summoned by Su, and the last piercing glance he had received from the Lunar King. It was all too much to bear. The sassy man's lips moved soundlessly, whispering a single word that only he could hear. Suddenly, he began to shake uncontrollably, as if his very being was about to shatter into a million pieces. He clutched his head with both hands, crying out in anguish. "Emperor! It was the Emperor, I've seen it," he yelled, his voice echoing across the desolate landscape. His mind whirled with a sense of impending doom as he tried to make sense of what he had witnessed. The sassy man's thoughts were in disarray, his emotions a tumultuous maelstrom of fear and confusion. At last, he let out a final scream of the Lunar King's name before plummeting into the abyss. Sassy groaned as he slowly regained consciousness, his head throbbing with pain. Blinking groggily, he took in his surroundings. It was a sterile, unfamiliar room that looked suspiciously like the medical room of the academy. Suddenly, a voice rang out inside his head, causing him to jump in surprise. It was a mysterious voice, one that seemed to come from the depths of his own mind. It informed him that the recumbent lunar blade, the enigmatic creature, had reappeared in the northern continent. The vice president of the 3rd branch had already set out to investigate, but Sassy was ordered to continue his role as a spy, monitoring the Lunar King's every move and reporting back to the Black Moon clan regularly. As Su's vision cleared, he saw the 2 giant ears hanging down from the creature's head, and he realized with a start that it was his newly contracted beast, the Moon Bunny. The bunny had returned to its normal form, its fur soft and fluffy under Su's fingers as he tentatively reached out to pet it. The bunny waved its 2 tiny paws in the air as if greeting its master with a cheerful "good morning." As fate would have it, Su found himself once again in the presence of the enigmatic Moon Bunny. With a sense of excitement and anticipation, he approached the creature, marveling at how it had transformed back into its regular form. The bunny was innocently bouncing and chasing after a butterfly as if it had no care in the world. Remembering the promise he had made, Su took a deep breath and signed a contract with the lunar being. He couldn't help but wonder about the limits of the bunny's power. Could it surpass even the highest rank barriers and become a supreme-ranked beast? The possibilities were endless. But just as Su was lost in thought, he was rudely interrupted by the bunny chomping on his shoes. Looking up at him with its beady eyes and wiggling its tiny tail, Su couldn't help but facepalm at the bunny's antics. Quickly shake off the thought and said, "Not a chance." As Su stepped out of his room, he was greeted by a hallway filled with a flurry of activity. People were running in one direction, their faces etched with panic and excitement. Intrigued, Su made his way through the throngs of people, eager to learn what had everyone so worked up. As luck would have it, Su overheard 2 girls discussing the appearance of a supreme-ranked creature not far from the academy. His interest piqued, he pulled out his phone and began to search for any news related to the incident. To his surprise, the first headline he came across was about the elusive recumbent lunar blade, the only known weapon-type supreme-ranked beast which also had never before acknowledged a beast tamer as its master. With hundreds of thousands of spectators flocking to the northern continent, waiting to see the legendary supreme creature, some people started connecting the dots. The appearance of the legendary recumbent lunar blade in the northern continent had sparked a frenzy among the people. Whispers and rumors spread like wildfire, speculating on the reasons behind the sudden appearance of the supreme weapon. Many believed that it was no coincidence that the blade had surfaced in the same area where the enigmatic Lunar King resided. After reading the report, Su made the decision to walk in the opposite direction. The 2 scouts who had been watching him were baffled by his choice. They couldn't fathom why the Lunar King wasn't heading straight for the supreme weapon. Despite his thirst for the supreme-ranked weapon, Su was no fool. He knew better than to stand in front of hundreds of thousands of people and try to contract and subdue the recumbent lunar blade. Could you imagine how embarrassing it would be if he failed? Instead, he decided to spend his time with a pretty little deer, whose company he found much more enjoyable. In the moon lab, the deer rested her chin on her hooves, lost in thought. She couldn't help but wonder about Sue and what he was up to. Just then, the door creaked open, drawing her attention. Sue had arrived, and the little deer's heart leaped with joy. Although she had a bit of a tsundere personality, the deer was very happy to see Sue. She tried to act calm and composed, but her excitement was palpable. She asked Sue why he hadn't headed towards the recumbent lunar blade, hoping for some kind of explanation. Sue sat down on the deer's bed and looked at her with a gentle smile. "A blade isn't pretty like you," he said softly. The little deer blushed at the compliment, her heart racing. As Sue reached for his pants, the little deer's eyes widened with curiosity. What could he be pulling out? "Don't tell me, it's way too early."
I said, hold up, wait a minute, something ain't right.
To her surprise, Sue produced a round object, a luxurious food item reserved only for the supreme ranked creatures, as someone who had always been treated as a mid-ranked. The deer had never seen anything like it before. She examined the candy carefully, admiring its intricate design and exquisite flavor. Finally, she placed it gently inside her candy box, alongside her other cherished treats. She loved to store snacks and candy, enjoying them while watching movies or reading novels. Before Sue left, he asked for the deer's phone number and added her to a chatting app. As he glanced at the avatar she was using, he wondered if it was a representation of her ancestor. He couldn't help but ponder if the deer would become something similar later in life. As he took one last look at the little deer. "You sick pervert, what do you want to do to the little deer?" As Sue departed, the deer's heart raced with the realization that Sue had chosen to spend time with her instead of chasing after the fabled supreme rank recumbent lunar blade. Her cheeks flushed with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. Was Sue truly interested in her, or was this all part of some elaborate scheme? Suddenly, a brilliant idea sparked in the deer's mind. She recalled a trick from one of her favorite novels, Playing Hard to Get. Perhaps Sue was trying to trick her into joining the Double Moon clan. The clever deer stood tall, adopting a pose reminiscent of the great detective Conan, confident that she had unraveled Sue's plot. But as the moment passed, the deer lay back on her bed, wondering if Sue would be returning the next day. As the days slipped away, the Lunar King's apathy towards the recumbent lunar blade remained unchanged. The Double Moon clan, too, remained eerily silent, their motives shrouded in mystery. Deep in a secluded valley, a long line of people snaked its way towards a desk, guarded by a woman whose voluptuous assets and sharp tongue commanded attention. Claire, vice president of the Lunar Beast Tamer Academy, stood tall and unyielding, her voice echoing through the valley as she demanded that each person fill out a safety sheet before proceeding any further. Among the throng, the sassy man limped his way towards the desk, his body riddled with bandages from previous misadventures. He had come to take over Claire's post and couldn't resist ogling the ample bite of the female students. But his lecherous thoughts were quickly interrupted by the sudden appearance of a woman draped in a flowing cape. As the sassy man's mind continued to wander, he suddenly caught sight of a tattoo on the mysterious woman's hand, sending a chill down his spine. His eyes darted back to her face. It was her. Nestled deep in the valley, a striking blue-skinned woman gazed in awe at the shimmering aura emanating from the recumbent lunar blade, visible miles away. She was an officer hailing from a powerful water-type guild in the central continent, who had traveled far to witness this rare and momentous event. Her arrival had not gone unnoticed, and the guild and clan leaders from the northern continent were expressions of thinly veiled hostility. The academy teacher warned the woman that non-lunar type beasts would be repelled by the protective energy surrounding the blade and that it was tantamount to suicide to approach without the aid of lunar beasts. But the woman nodded resolutely, insisting on staying behind to bear witness to the unfolding events. Moments later, Claire arrived with a group of eager students, poised to enter the territory of the recumbent lunar blade. She sternly explained the rules to the assembled group, warning that the blade could not be destroyed when it was sleeping and that when it was awake, it would unleash a devastating shockwave that would slice through anything in its path. As the deer continued to explain the rules to Sue, he lounged lazily on his bed, his mind wandering off to thoughts of comfort and leisure. The notion of facing off against a legendary supreme beast seemed as far-fetched to him as a mermaid riding a unicorn. Could you imagine the almighty Lunar King died miserably under a supreme ranked blade? But as he continued to think, a sudden jolt shot through Sue's body, as if an electric current had passed through him. His eyes widened as he realized that there was something he needed to do. As the students eagerly lined up to enter the forbidden territory, the caped woman watched with hawk-like intensity, her eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of the Lunar King. Her mind consumed with thoughts of capturing the recumbent lunar blade and wiping out all witnesses. Suddenly, her phone began to buzz, jolting her out of her reverie. With trembling hands, she checked the GPS tracker and saw that the Lunar King was on the move, making his way toward the treacherous valley where the blade was said to be hidden. Her heart racing with questions, but then, Claire's voice rang out, piercing through the caped woman's thoughts. "Pay attention," she barked, her tone sharp and commanding. "Do you want to die out here?" The caped woman gritted her teeth, swallowing back a retort as she forced herself to bow in apology. She couldn't risk blowing her cover, not now when she was so close to achieving her goal. But deep down, she seethed with anger and resentment, her mind already scheming up ways to punish Claire for her insolence. With a steely glint in her eye, when everything settles, she will be getting her hands dirty and playing a little SM with Claire and punishing her. As the students gathered around Claire, their eyes fixed on the shimmering teleportation stones in their hands, the tension in the air was palpable. They knew that this was no ordinary mission, one misstep, one wrong move, and they could all end up dead, trapped inside the blade's awakened realm for all eternity. Breaking the stone will instantly teleport them back to safety, but as Claire warned them to be careful, the blue-skinned woman sneered in contempt, her lips curling into a mocking grin. In her eyes, these mere 1- and 2-star beast tamers were nothing more than foolish mortals, delusional in their quest to capture the legendary lunar blade. Even the mighty 8-star beast tamer, Sanyu Emperor, had failed in his attempt to subdue the blade. What hope did these amateurs have? As she scanned the group, her eyes fell upon a caped woman, her cloak billowing in the wind. I'm unsure if she is looking at her cloak or her cake, but then the woman turned to meet her gaze, and the blue-skinned woman felt a chill run down her spine. It was as if 1,000 serpents were biting at her, the intensity of the woman's stare leaving her feeling exposed and vulnerable. As the students stepped inside the teleportation circle and disappeared from view, the blue-skinned woman approached Claire, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Why to bother with a bunch of weaklings, she taunted. Why not just call in the Lunar King and be done with it? As the blue-skinned woman sneered at Claire, the tension in the air reached a boiling point. But before the situation could escalate any further, a sudden presence filled the room, causing everyone to turn and gasp in shock. It was Sue, the legendary Lunar King himself. Even the blue-skinned woman, who had been so dismissive of the student's abilities just moments before, was taken aback by his appearance. But Claire, ever the professional fangirl, greeted Sue with the utmost respect, bowing deeply before him. Onlookers watched in awe as they were concerned that the lunar blade might repel the Lunar King's emperor-ranked beast, but Claire, the ultimate fangirl, couldn't contain her excitement. If the mighty Lunar King is here, she declared, her eyes shining with admiration, it means that he must have full confidence in his ability to subdue the infamous blade without unleashing his emperor-ranked beast. Well, that's not exactly why Sue is here. Does everyone remember Sue's lunar book? That's right, Sue is required to be in close contact with the beast to unlock it in his book. As Sue's foot touches the outer layer of the circle, the lunar book springs to life, unlocking a new beast, the silence balance. This majestic creature is the supreme ranked beast, renowned for its unparalleled purity. It may not be a combatant, but it has crowd control abilities that'll make your jaw drop. The silence balance boasts two distinct skills. The first one is called fairness, which means that only supreme ranked beasts are allowed to launch attacks in its territory. And if that's not enough, its second ability is called silence, which lets the user blend in with their surroundings, becoming invisible even to the most powerful emperor ranked beasts. Sue took a step back, his eyes scanning the surroundings for any sign of danger. He knew this was no ordinary beast, and a quick search on his phone confirmed his suspicions. The Silence Balance belonged to none other than the Black Moon Clan, a notorious group known for their ruthless tactics and merciless ways. Turning to Claire, Sue demanded an explanation. Why did they allow these mere insects from the Black Moon Clan to infiltrate their territory? The shock and confusion on everyone's faces were palpable as Sue made his announcement. From this moment forward, the Double Moon Clan would take control of this place, and no one else would be allowed in. The news hit the big shots of the northern continent like a bolt of lightning, leaving them reeling from the sudden change of events. The blue-skinned woman, her eyes narrowed in suspicion. She knew that the cloaked woman who had entered the circle here must have been from the Black Moon Clan. Sue realized that the only reason the Silent Balance had been placed here was to prevent him from summoning his Emperor-ranked beast. The Black Moon Clan had clearly thought that Sue was in possession of one. The Lunar King had entered the circle, and as always, the sassy man, a notorious drama queen, began to stir up trouble. Using the remnants of the Black Moon Clan as an excuse, he tried to persuade everyone to let him enter the circle to protect Sue. The big shots of the northern continent began to discuss, unsure of what to do. The sassy man had the clear intention of trying to stir up chaos and perhaps even get Sue killed. The sassy man didn't want the big shots to go in with him, and so, with bandages covering his wounds, he limped his way toward the entrance of the circle. Claire sensed that something was off with the sassy man's behavior, but she couldn't quite put her finger on what it was. Just as the sassy man was about to enter, a powerful surge of energy from the sky struck him, knocking him several meters away. As the dust settled, a woman wearing bells around her waist appeared, sneering at the sassy man. The woman who had appeared before them belonged to the Double Moon Clan, one of the most powerful and prestigious clans in the northern continent. She was one of the 12 elite officers, and her reputation preceded her wherever she went. You shall not pass, Gandalf declared. The woman declared, her voice ringing out across the clearing. This circle is under the protection of the Double Moon Clan, and we will not allow anyone to disrupt the peace. As the cloaked woman ventured deeper into the circle, she felt a growing sense of unease. The silence was deafening, broken only by the sound of her footsteps crunching on the gravelly ground. Suddenly, she sensed a powerful energy discharged behind her. She sprinted toward the location. There, in the center of the circle, was the recumbent lunar blade. She approached the blade cautiously, her heart racing with excitement. With a confident smile on her face, she stepped forward, her body swaying like a willow in the wind. Her eyes gleamed with determination, and her long, flowing hair seemed to dance around her like flames. As she outstretched her hands, she took a deep breath and spoke with a voice that commanded attention. I know what you want, she said, her words ringing out like a clarion call. You have rejected the Song Yu Emperor and the Saintess from the Moon God Clan, for they were born with an Emperor-ranked beast by their side. But you, my proud beast, cannot accept being in a lower status than any other. She paused for a moment, letting her words sink in. Then, with a flick of her wrist, she unleashed her power. It was emblazoned with the symbol of a 6-star beast tamer. I am a 6-star beast tamer, she declared, her voice ringing out with pride. Although I may not be as strong as those you have rejected, I will be a rightful owner. And I will prove it to you. With that, she put her hand toward the lunar blade, a weapon of immense power that had claimed the lives of countless beasts. With a blinding flash of light, the very fabric of space and time seemed to come to a halt. The air crackled with an electric energy as the woman's hand closing in onto the weapon.